This video was brought to you by Brilliant. Today, Germany reintroduces border controls, Trump escalates his threats on tariffs, and a top EU court orders Google to pay a €2.4 billion antitrust fine. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Tuesday the 10th of September 2024. Germany is set to implement temporary border control along its land borders as a response to mounting public pressure for tougher measures on irregular immigration. Germany's Interior Minister Nancy Faeser announced this initiative, aimed to further restrict immigration and address concerns regarding terrorism and serious crime. Germany already has controls on its eastern and southern borders with Poland, the Czech Republic, Switzerland, and Austria, primarily spot checks on roads and trains. According to Berlin, these controls have allowed the German government to return 30,000 migrants since last October. But these new controls will extend these existing measures with these four neighbouring countries, and are set to take effect as of next Monday, lasting initially for 6 months. Alluding to the EU's border-free Schengen zone, Faeser said that the model would allow authorities to turn people away at the border in a manner that was effective and compatible with European law. Faeser declined to provide details on the categories of immigrant who would be sent back, and whether Germany's neighbours had agreed to take them in. However, critics have said the move is more about politics than security. In fact, concerns have even arisen among the coalition government, particularly from the Green Party. MEP Eric Markvart warned that the extended controls could undermine the Schengen Agreement, emphasising that simply turning people away at the border is unrealistic. But this policy shift comes just days after the anti-immigration Alternative for Germany party made big gains in the local elections, as well as a recent terror attack in Solingen claimed by the Islamic State group, which left 3 people dead. In response to the attacks in Solingen, Chancellor Olaf Scholz's government announced a raft of new measures on migration. These include changing the rules so that asylum seekers facing deportation will lose their benefits, and resuming the deportation of convicted Afghan criminals to their home country for the first time since the Taliban returned to power in 2021. There's more on the way, but remember to subscribe and ring the bell for more daily briefing tomorrow. Plus, if you want to support the channel like Andy Pipkin, then consider joining the TLDR membership program for just $1.99. Moving to the US now, where former and potentially future President Donald Trump has raised threats that he's going to increase tariffs on imports if he wins the presidential election in November. The Republican nominee went as far as to promise that there will be 100% tariffs on imports from countries that were moving away from the dollar. While this appeared to be a threat aimed at trading partners such as the EU, it would also likely affect developing countries too. Explaining the reason behind this decision, Trump explained that if we lost the dollar as the world currency, I think that would be the equivalent of losing a war. He added, "I'm talking about taxing foreign nations at levels they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly." With the first presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump set to take place this evening, we'll have to see whether Trump's proposed tariffs feature in the head-to-head. For more US election coverage, check out the new Nebula original series, WTF USA. The link to that is in the description. Next up, in a win for the European Commission, Google has been ordered to pay €2.4 billion by the EU in a landmark antitrust ruling, where the company was found guilty of favouring its own shopping service over competitors. This ruling stems from a 2017 decision by EU regulators, which concluded that Google had abused its dominant market position by giving its comparison shopping service an unfair advantage in search results. This case is emblematic of the EU's strict and rigorous approach to regulating big tech companies and protecting competition within the digital market space. This is also one of a pair of victories for the EU's antitrust chief, Margrethe Vestager, in her battle against big tech, as today judges also agreed with her in a €13 billion case involving the low tax bills paid by Apple in Ireland. Regardless, the ruling emphasized that Google's conduct harmed consumers by stifling innovation and limiting choices, resulting in higher prices. As a consequence of the ruling, Google has also been required to modify its practices and ensure fairer treatment for rival services. But a spokesperson for Google has said that the company plans to appeal the decision. All in all, this significant financial penalty is part of a broader trend in which the EU seeks to hold tech giants accountable for their monopolistic behavior. Next up, Colombia's National Liberation Army, or ELN, known as the world's oldest guerrilla force, have restarted their attacks on the Colombian oil industry, launching a series of pipeline attacks, mainly in the eastern Colombian province of Arauca, which is also an ELN stronghold. Now, the ELN has long criticized the Colombian oil industry for providing favorable contracts to foreign companies and for snubbing national interests. But this resurgence of violence also follows failed peace talks with the government. Since late August, following a breakdown in negotiations in May and the expiration of an agreed ceasefire, the ELN has conducted at least 19 attacks on oil pipelines and has renewed hostilities with government security forces, opening fire on police bases and killing at least 5 soldiers in ambushes. These new attacks have heightened challenges for the country's oil sector, which significantly contributes to the Colombian economy and makes up for 10% of the country's GDP and a third of the nation's exports. Colombia's state-controlled oil company, which owns the pipelines, has said that these recent attacks, along with a recent trucker strike over rising fuel prices and protests at a natural gas plant, have seriously stalled the company's operations. Moving to the Middle East now, where at least 13 people have been killed in an overnight Israeli strike in southern Gaza. The news comes from a local hospital, who claims that the strike hit a designated humanitarian zone. Now, this figure is disputed, as the Hamas-run Civil Defense Authority claims that more than 40 bodies have been recovered, and that more than 60 were injured. The Israeli military have claimed that they attacked a number of senior Hamas terrorists operating in the territory, but residents claim that the 3 missiles hit a tented camp that was full of displaced Palestinians, leaving 7-meter deep craters. In a statement following the strike, the IDF claimed that prior to the strike, extensive intelligence gathering was conducted, as well as continuous aerial surveillance in the hours leading up to the strike, which confirmed the presence of terrorists in the area alongside additional terrorist operatives. Hamas, though, have denounced this, claiming that this is a clear lie that aims to justify these ugly crimes. The resistance has denied several times that any of its members exist within civilian gatherings or use these places for military purposes. In the final uplifting story, we discuss YouTube's plans to restrict harmful content. In the latest update, YouTube is adjusting their algorithm to restrict videos showing both non-violent aggression and idealized physical appearances from being promoted to teenagers on the platform. Explaining this in a new blog post, YouTube explained that while such content may be innocuous as a single video, it could be problematic for some teens if viewed repetitively. With issues like these, it's often hard to come to the right conclusions. So if you want to improve your decision making, you'll want to check out Brilliant. Brilliant is where you learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in maths, data analysis, programming, and AI. For instance, there's the Scientific Thinking course, which takes you on an interactive tour of our physical world. You'll engage with key scientific principles and theories, from simple machines like gears and pulleys to Einstein's special theory of relativity. It's not just a bunch of lectures either. You'll learn by doing, with hands-on lessons that will have you comparing circuits to understand voltage and current, playing snooker to learn the rules of collision, planning your itinerary for an intergalactic music festival on a space-time diagram, and more. That way, you'll build your natural intuition while gaining deep knowledge of scientific principles. Find out more and try everything Brilliant has to offer for a full 30 days by visiting brilliant.org/TLDR or by clicking the link in the description. That way, you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Thanks for your support, and thanks to Brilliant for sponsoring this video.